Well, hey kids, welcome back. I know it's been a little while, but I've had a few things come up here at Smith Motor Works that pull us away from some of the car and bike projects, siding, gutters, new well drilling, fun stuff for no one, and certainly nothing that I want to mess with because, hey, I'm all about the cars and bikes and the engines and all that stuff, just like you guys are. So what we're going to do this episode is update you a little bit on what I've been doing underneath the hood of the little Firenza here that's featured in a playlist that about this little car. Pretty interesting. Been doing a lot of stuff, but a lot of the individual stuff I haven't really covered, and I've done quite a bit under the hood that I didn't plan on doing because, when you buy a used car, the old saying, you inherit somebody else's problems, and this car's got great bones. It's got a lot of good parts in it, but it's like Jekyll and Hyde worked on it. Some of the stuff is really nice, and other stuff is, what were you thinking? So that's what we're going to go over on this episode. And next episode, I think we're going to get back into the little Sears motorcycle. But we're going to see about that. Whatever we do, it'll be great. So let's get started. All right, well, might jump around here a little bit because there's a lot of stuff to go over because I've touched about every system on this car one way or another. Probably the biggest thing was the oil pan, which there's a separate episode about if you want to check that out on the channel. It's also on the playlist for this project. These cars have a special, the V8 cars have a special oil pan to clear the steering linkage and partially the cross member, and you can't really see it too well from where we're at. Like I said, there's a special episode of it, but if you're familiar with the Chevy engine, the sump's in the rear, and kind of from the side, it kind of drops down and curves down lower at the back. Well, right at the front, where it's actually the closest to the main caps, it needs to be even closer on these cars for the center link to move across to steer the car, and there's a notch in there. So you can buy those pans, or if you're lucky, you might be able to find a factory one and put on there too. But you can just as easily kind of make your own with some dimensions that are online, and I actually share those with you on the video. And that's what we did when I had it out, because this is unique that you can get the oil pan off these cars. Maybe a really, an old car like a 50s car or something like that, you could probably pull the pan off without pulling the engine, but as I started moving, towards the 1960s, you couldn't do that. But on this car, you can. You can take the K-member out, get the oil pan off, so that allowed me to get up in there and check everything out. And while I had the K-member out and the oil pan off, I did notice that the motor mounts, these have kind of unique motor mounts, I would say, kind of, at least for small block Chevy stuff, and really kind of for just GM stuff in general. There's sort of like two designs, I guess. If you're going into, say, the V8 era, you kind of got like your sort of, rubber with a threaded mount, or with a through hole going into a stand on the frame. Then you got your kind of later clamshell ones. Well, this is neither one. You can see those fingers down there on the actual frame mounts, or engine mounts on the frame. Kind of little like bubbles that stick out there. Well, those are new mounts that I got from a company. I think out in New Mexico. There's a couple guys making them. A guy named Bob Gum makes some, and these are polyurethane. I like these a lot, so I got these. They, it's 6 dozen because there's no factory ones left, or unless you get new old stock or something. So I got these are polyurethane. Put them in there. Somewhere along the line, the previous owner had the mounts. They're rubber. It's an organic material. It ain't gonna last forever. The motor was sagging enough that it was even making their non-modified oil pan contact the steering even more. I mean, this thing was almost snapping when it was sliding through there. Well, the way they got to fix that was they put like a 1/2-inch spacer underneath those. You saw those bolts I showed you going up through the. You see the top of the plates right there. on the bottom, two of them, just two black things. They had like a 1/2-inch spacer on those, lifting the thing up, and yeah, that kind of worked, but it's sort of a, just buying time, and I didn't want to do that. I had it apart. I really, I don't want to say I'm trying to restore this thing, but I really don't want to, sink a whole bunch of money into it right off the bat, because it's a hot rod. It's going to get taken apart a bunch of times, but it's a daily driver too. But I didn't want to put something marginal in there. I'd rather it break down in the driveway than out on the highway. So that's kind of, I guess we'll kind of go from bottom to top. So I got, like I say, modified the oil pan, because the stock one doesn't have the clearance you need for the steering. So we got that modified, got an episode about that. Painted it close to an Oldsmobile gold. Yes, I know it's a Chevy engine, but it's an old car, and I like the gold. I like gold. And painted the front up a little bit too, because while I had the pan off, I noticed that the pan had been leaking because someone had improperly installed the oil pan gasket, and they had trimmed the timing cover in a really odd fashion to get it on and off of there. It was a mess. I don't know what they were doing. I don't know if they tried to put it on and off in the car and did it wrong or what, but I'm like, something I've always wanted is one of those two-piece timing covers, because on a small block Chevy, at least, it's a huge hassle if you need to take the timing cover off, because you can't just pull it off of there. You got to loosen it all up and then loosen, loosen or remove quite a few of the pan bolts, and carefully pry that back down and hope you don't tear the gasket up on the side to get the cover off and then reseal it. It's not so bad in this car because, like I said, you can take the whole pan off. So if I had to do it, I would do the whole thing. But I didn't know that when I tore into it, that you could get the pan off without pulling the engine. So I got me a two-piece cover on here. And what I noticed when I put it in there, and it's pretty neat. It's not the most expensive one you can get, but this allows you to just take the cover off, and then the front pan seal part is a separate piece. So it stays on the engine. You don't have to disturb the oil pan. I think I got that from Speedway, Speedy Bill, Speedy Motors, Speedway Motors. It wasn't a lot of money. I mean, you can get it from other places, but I liked it. And when I was in there, I noticed there is no timing tab at all to set the ignition timing, unless you're just, doing it by ear, which the thing started up and ran pretty good. So, I mean, somebody's got it sort of close, but that's just not the way I wanted to do it, I mean, it's just not right. So I put this might be impossible to see. I think you can see just the pointer of it. It looks like a nail. You see that thing sticking out like right in the middle of the screen. That's the tab off of that's adjustable timing pointer. I think you can kind of maybe see the MSD letters. If you zoom down in there, look down in there. But yeah, it's an MSD, so I did splurge. I got a nice one. And put that adjustable timing pointer on there. And I got this little, it's almost like a can. You can see that shiny on the balancer there. That's not, balancer's not chrome. It's like a can that goes over top of that, and it's degreed to where you got a degreed balancer now, whereas, the tab just got a pointer. So I got a, much more information from what's going on. I can see total timing and things like that, whereas a regular timing pointer, timing tab might have 10 degrees, before and after, top dead center. I got much more in that balancer, and that was really cheap. I'd never owned one of those either before too. But I'm like, hey, while you're in there, one of those things, put it on. So I got that buttoned up. I was pretty pleased with that, but that allowed me to, reseal up everything, repainted the front of the engine, the water pump. On this side over here, on the exhaust manifold, which there's no way you can see it. It's got two studs going to the side exhaust that somebody's built. There was only one stud, so it wasn't really loud, but I knew it would leak going down the road, so had to get up in there with the stud puller and pull that stud out. I was definitely had my fingers crossed that I wouldn't crack that manifold, because I didn't want to do that. These are actually the exhaust manifolds on this thing, I believe, are third generation, F-body Camaro Firebird stuff. Pretty sure that's what these are. They don't look like the Monza ones for me, regardless of what they are. They're cast iron, log type manifolds. But hey, they work. They fit in the chassis, which is kind of a trick to fit exhaust. The guys with headers, they have some that work, but they usually got to make some concessions. Some clearance dents or things like that. And this is a street car. I'm not gonna sweat it for the extra, dozen horsepower it might squeeze out with, the performance level of this engine, and it just isn't gonna make that much of a difference to accept the headache that it would cause. Yeah, tell me I'm an idiot in the comments if you don't agree. I've messed with a lot. I've got long tube headers on my Cutlass over there, so yes, I'm not anti headers. It's just I don't want to mess with it on this car, at least yet. So we'll keep going. Moving up a little higher, the cooling system in general seemed to work and not leak, but this radiator, I think this might be the one that people are using for as an aluminum radiator. I don't know. It's the one that came with the car. It certainly is not the V8, Monza V8 H-body radiator, because it has a special, like a 90-degree water neck. I can't remember which way it turns. But it kind of fits in here. But I wanted to pull it all out and get it straight, cleaned up, straighten as many of the fins as I could, because it had been banged on a little bit. So, made it better than it was. And the transmission cooler, which I made a super, I'd say, basic mount out of a barbecue grill. Also a episode on that in the playlist. It worked really well. You can't see it now with this cover on here. This thing was all beat up, scratched up, but I, slathered some paint on that. It was missing some of the, speed nuts that go in behind there. Got some of those out of my hardware box. Found some bolts that, are not the exactly factory ones. These two on the outside are, but I got, bolts and a washer on here. Bolted on there nice. Got it lined up straight. All that was all well and good. The transmission cooler mount, the way they had it plumbed in there was they just had it running as a single unit to where it ran in and out, and it was with hose, and it was attached to the radiator. So if you wanted to service either one of them, you had to disconnect everything, and I didn't like that. I wanted them to be independent, and I also wanted to hook it up the way it should be, where it goes. It uses both coolers. It uses the transmission's cooler that's or the radiator's cooler, that plumbed through the engine coolant, and then the one that's, air cooled out here, where this is, cooled by the actual engine coolant inside of that. So they kind of run in and out of the other. I mean, you can't see which way it goes, but now I got, AN lines going into my cooler out front here, and then I can just disconnect them here from the radiator and take the radiator out. And, I might get a little bit of leakage out of the transmission lines there, but nothing like messing with, they just had rubber hose on steel line too, and it was pretty nasty. I mean, I got the old lines here. You can see I got, get this wire out of the way here, but, I got the adapters to go to -6 here, and this was the steel line that they had in here, and it's, they bent it all up and rebent it, and then bent it again, and then said, well, let's bend it one more time. So that's why it's, got the dog's hind leg, crookedness going on here. I took these holes that were in here, which I think might have been a clamp for the heater hoses. I don't know what it was for, but there were 2 holes in just about the perfect spots for me to run those lines, which I'm gonna will definitely replace these hard lines here with some nicer, cleaner hard lines that has a straight run in it. But I put a nutsert like a pop rivet with threaded holes in it, female threads in it. Put a couple of those in there, and then got it screwed down here so it's nice and tight. Got some P-clamps on here, or kind of P-clip type fasteners on here. Hold this line on there really good. I got some little, probably can't see them, but I got some in the package here. Got some of these super cheapo AN hose clamps to just do some hose management here. I haven't got this all done, but I like AN hose for one of the reasons is, you can you can always reuse these fittings unless you just destroy them, which it happens. But I think of all the ones that I got, I think I may, I've lost 1 out of 30 or something like that because it was an off-brand or I don't remember. Maybe I dropped it. I don't know it. But they're pretty durable and you can keep using them, reconfiguring stuff. It's a little bit of a hassle to make the lines up, but hey, I like them and it looks neat underneath the hood for sure. Going on, I guess, with the fuel system here, you can see I got also got AN lines here. The fuel line, there was a lot. The previous owner loved to take and put a single flare on steel line, slip a piece of neoprene hose on it, and put a hose clamp on it. Well, no, they put 2, like going different directions, because it's like aerospace quality, I guess, if you do that. But man, the hose is all getting squishy and rotten, and I just don't want to burn up on this. And I could have redone this with new hose and made it nicer, but they had a clear plastic fuel filter on here. I didn't like that. I've seen those catch on fire before. They had like a barb fitting on this carburetor with rubber line going, or neoprene line going through there, and it was just flopping all around in there. So I hooked this up. I got this fuel line here, all AN stuff, and there's a rubber bumper. You can see I got my finger right on it here, on top of this heater hose fitting to keep this from rattling on top of that. This gauge is kind of janky. That probably is going to get replaced. I wanted to button that up so that it goes in and out of the fuel pump. There's a Chrome Performance Mechanical fuel pump down in there. You probably cannot see that, but I can light it up a little bit. But you can probably see the top of it maybe. But yeah, like I said, it's got some nice stuff on it, but the execution had left something to be desired. But you can see I got it hooked into the fuel line here. You can see a little bit of their handiwork with they cut the line here, and you see right underneath right there, the fuel line. So that's gonna get replaced. We'll put some unions in there and hard line that all the way through. I mean, it's nice that it's got a break in it there if you needed to take it apart, but I don't like leaving that hose in there. I mean, that's the whole thing. Even to pass tech, they want you to use the minimum of that kind of hose, just because it doesn't last forever. It's great when you got a situation where there's vibration. You can't have a rigid line, but you shouldn't plumb the whole car with it. That's just asking for trouble. But anyway, don't have to worry about it anymore. But yeah, you can see I was busy. So the other thing that took me probably the longest was the belt drive on this. I don't know if these are the right pulleys. I think that's the right water pump for this car, but the belts did not. I mean, they didn't even come close to being straight. And I got them pretty straight now too. And I think they might even be the wrong pulleys, because the right lengths of belts, the factory part number, they didn't work right. But I made I can grab it here in a minute. I made kind of a measuring tool out of a belt. It was like a 50-inch belt, and I cut it and put a screw in it on each side of it, and put it around there, and then I zip tied it together, and I could just measure in between the two ends of the belts and say it's 50 plus whatever, and that's how I kind of bought the other belts here, because they're both over 50. So they probably make a tool like that, but hey, I was out here and had a minute to think about it and put that up. But I got them real straight here. This power steering pump bracket was just all bent up, messed up. Took it apart, cleaned it up, painted it up. Got the belts on there right the way I wanted them. Started noticing, boy, the alternator bracket sure don't look like it's the way it should be done. I also replaced 3 of the 4 bolts with the ARP bolt kit on here, because this requires a special stud, which luckily I had. I could have made it, but I didn't really know what any of it looked like. There's a Facebook group called Monza Madness, and lots of good articles on there. If you got one of these cars, one of these V8 H-Body cars, it's a good source of information. They, what parts fit where. And several of the things that we're going to talk about, this being one of them, is there was a really good picture of like an assembly diagram for all the brackets. And I found out I had some of them, and I found out some of them I didn't. I thought when I first saw this kind of doubled up top bracket here, I thought, oh, this is definitely some, some jury rig stuff here, that it's not the way it should be, but it is. And I was like, well, okay. The only thing I did was on the backside that you can't see, I did, there's, a little bit of a gap here. I did weld it together on the bottom because mine were so bent up, I couldn't get them to hold together without having a big old ugly gap in there. So I tacked mine together. I could cut it apart if there was some reason that they needed to come apart in the future, which I don't know why, but that's how the factory did it on that part of it. And the bottom bracket that's going across here, I didn't have, so that's part of a garage door opener. Some strap that's in there. I just kind of measured, went back and forth, got it lined up. This took a lot of experimentation to see where does this land, and got the holes drilled, grounded up, painted it up. Got that one in there because there's like 5 pieces that go on the factory setup. It is. I don't know if they had 5 different guys working on it or ran out of time or what, but it doesn't seem like the most efficient way to do it. But it does work. I had some of the stuff on the back. The problem that I had, which I'll see if I can explain here, is, like I said earlier, these are not the factory manifolds. They're, like I said, I think they're 3rd gen F-body manifolds, from what I can tell. I don't know. I can't identify them. Well, where this manifold comes up here, the factory ones go down low, and it uses the 2 bolts in the front. If you're familiar with the small block Chevy, there's 2 here, there's 2 in the middle that catch 2 cylinders, 2 exhaust ports, and there's 2 in the back. So there's 6 going down the side. Well, the factory bracket caught these 2 bolts and used it as support. It came out, had a stud, and it came across and caught onto the back of the alternator here. Well, I couldn't do that because this stuff is in the way. So what I did was I mounted to the head. There's a bolt. You can see the kind of CAD-plated bolt head there. There's a bolt hole there, and built my own bracket of my own design there to come around and meet up on the back here. It works great. It's rock solid. Put it on there. So, if I ever did deal with headers, I wouldn't ever switch to headers. I wouldn't have to mess with that factory type bracket. So that's not why I did it. I did it because this was in the way, but it's kind of an added benefit. You can see here these wires are hanging out here. I cannot explain some of the stuff that happened on this. The plug, this GM 10SI alternator, the plug that goes in here, they're all wired the same way. This should be over here on this battery here. This was from the other one that was on there. Well, I was just going to fix the one that was on there, but they had cut this gauge wire, or Idiolite wire, right down to the plug, and I thought, well, I can pull the terminal out and just put new wire in there and fix it. And I mean, the way it's crimped on there, I did get it out, but I tore the messed the terminal up so bad I didn't trust it. These things are, I don't know, $10 or something like that, so I had to buy another one. Why in the world they didn't just cap this wire off if they weren't going to use it, I cannot explain, because they didn't cap it off. They just cut it, so it was open, so if they're afraid about it contacting something, it still could have. It wasn't protected. Like I say, a lot of stuff on this car. Who knows what they were thinking, but so we messed with that. Back to the fan blade. Like I said, this isn't the radiator that goes in here. And this whole setup in this car is kind of what the machine shop guys say, like, clearance is clearance. Well, that's what we got here, because I had to take, it took me a while to figure out what fan to run. This had a steel flex fan on it, Flexolite fan. And I had a very bad experience with one of those when I was a kid with my first car, my 69 Camaro. Had it sitting in the garage or driveway or something, and was running in the, just idling, and I was leaning over the hood, kind of like this, and one of those blades came off and flew through and stuck like a spear in the wall. It could have been, my head. Of course, shut it off immediately after I, after my heart started beating again, and I said, no way, I'm never again. And I know a lot of people swear by them. They think they're great, never had a problem. But even when they're not turning, you rub your knuckles against one of those Flexolite fan blades, it's like a a sharpened knife. I mean, it's, you know, stainless steel sheet metal. It's pretty, just gonna have an edge just by the type of material that it has, and it don't feel good. So I said, yeah, I don't want to carve my knuckles off, and I certainly don't want to get scalped. So I found another fan, which this is a flex fan too, but it's, I believe it's nylon, so we'll see. I wanted just a rigid mechanical fan on there. I don't care if it cost me a horsepower or two, but I just trust it better. Yeah, I may end up with an electric fan because, man, it is close. It is at the minimum it could be. I needed a fan spacer that was between a 1/2 inch and 1 inch. So I had to go put this one, buy an inch and put it on the mill and cut it down to the length I had. And I still ended up putting a little shim in there. But it's on there. It's got clearance. Fits good. I'm happy with it. So, yep, new cooling fan too. So more, you know, all starts adding up. But as you can see here, the other thing I was telling you about, the V8 cars have a special water neck on the top here and allows them to use a different kind of upper radiator hose. Well, I found this out on the aforementioned Monza Madness site. This is like F-Series, like a old body style Ford upper hose. I can't remember exactly the year. I got the part number if somebody ever wants one, which I did modify. Had to cut some off of this end and then you know, split it here because I'm a huge fan of these inline coolant filters. I got a brand new 455 Oldsmobile in my Cutlass, brand new radiator, pro built, or the block, you know, was machined at a pro shop. Clean, came out. Thought, you know, I got some money in this engine. I'm going to put the filter in there, and I'll just change it, you know, because hey, stuff happens. You know, water pumps wear out, things like that, whatever. You know, you blow a head gasket or something like that, you might get you get contaminants in the coolant, and, you know, why tear up other things when you don't have to, and you can kind of see the condition of the coolant as it goes through there. I was amazed at how much stuff was either, whether it was coming out of the block, the brand new Edelbrock aluminum heads or aluminum intake, or the brand new radiator that was in it. I don't know, but it was full of trash. I was just amazed. So this thing, certainly not brand new. And I said, for as cheap as these things are, they're not cheap, I should say that. It's cheap insurance to me. You kind of see what's going on there. So do you need one of these? No, but I like them. They're just like the glass fuel filters that I won't use, where you can see the flow going through there. But, you know, this isn't going to burn you up. You know, it might scald you if it broke or something like that. But it's not going to burn the car down. And but it works the same way. They're threaded together. It's got a big filter in there. And they're made by the one right there is made by the same company that makes the radiator here, this Champion. So I just knocked something off there. We'll find it later. But so that was kind of nice. You know, keep it all in the family there. Let's see, what else did we do here? Oh, yeah, I kind of like serviceability with stuff. And if you go back and look, any of this stuff, you can see what it looked like before in the first video, because this had a crazy flexi hose going on in there. And the water neck came out at a funky angle, but I wanted to be able to use this hose here. So this is one of those swivel water necks that everybody swears that they leak. We're going to see, I think I know what they're doing wrong. In some cases, has a couple things to do with either they're not getting it sealed there's not putting enough pressure when the O-ring is compressed, or there's getting a leak around the backside of the thermostat. So we got that all cleaned up, sealed up. I think it's going to work. We'll find out. If not, you know, I know how to make it work. People are putting it in the mill and cutting it down to where it's compressing the O-ring a little bit more. I hope I don't have to do that, but I think this will work. But what I started to say was the way the PCV system was routed before, it was going the other way. The PCV valve was on the backside here, and they just had an open breather here. And this whole, you can see this thing's filthy in here. Everything was covered with oil, with a film of oil, and it still kind of is, but I've hit with brake clean and wiped it down as much as I could. And plus I kind of wanted more of a straight run on these two things, because the power brake line was hooked to the front, and the PCV valve was hooked to the back. It's kind of, not so bad going that way, but the power brake line was coming around and running over the front, and I just looked silly. So what I did was I swapped them around here. And the brake line isn't hooked up on the back there, because we'll talk about the throttle cable bracket in a minute. But this is something that I got in my tips and tricks videos. If you like the looks of that, those are 2 spark plug boots, and that's air tubing. It's 3/8 air tubing, like for airbags, air springs. It's just cut to length, it's pushed in here. It's really the same kind of setup that they use on a lot of 90s cars. The 94 Cutlass that we have, all the vacuum lines on that. Also on the channel, check it out, 94 Cutlass Supreme Convertible. A lot of the vacuum lines are like that. They're a little elbow or a little end with kind of hard line in the middle here. Nice straight shot, goes right in there. Looks nice and clean. That'll last till doomsday. But I wanted to get a complete PCV system on it. So, I got this hose just hanging here, but we'll hook that into the breather to where it actually goes through the breather, and it's not just, open to the element, because it's preference really, but I kind of want it all buttoned up to where it works the way it's supposed to all the time, and not, just relying off of the pressure under the hood. It's got the correct pull through in the air cleaner, the way it does from the factory. So we'll get that hooked up, because I'm making a new air cleaner bottom. This had mismatched setup. It had it's supposed to have a 14-inch air cleaner element, and it had like a 13-inch bottom and the regular Edelbrock Signature 14-inch top, which I got it pulled off here for clarity, but we're working on that. If you guys like retro stuff, or you kind of grew up in the 70s and 80s, you might see these, and these make you laugh, because they are probably one of the most popular dress-up items back in that day. And they really, if you don't know what it is, it's pretty much just a nut, with a giant T handle on the end of it to turn it out, and there's a stud that goes into the head. I think they probably had a function at one time. People, pull a race car into the pits and they could spin these off. It was, toolless. Get the valve cover off and check for some valve train damage, or, make a change or whatever. They look pretty silly when you got them on anything beside a small block Chevy, because you get like an Oldsmobile or a Ford or something, and you got 10 on each side or something crazy. That looks kind of funny, but how often are you going to take the valve covers off on this thing? Hopefully I don't ever have to take them off again, but I've had a set of these. I bought it or traded or something. I had them in a box, and I thought, this is the right era for the car. Let's put them on there. So I did. It kind of suits it, kind of from the disco days a little bit. And the other thing is, this just had bolts in it. It just had like some just garbage, grade 2 bolts. Didn't have any kind of spreader plates or anything on it. So I got some of those plates, put these on here, got some valve cover T-bolts on there. I think it looks pretty cool. They made different styles of these too. Some of them have holes drilled in them, or have like a V top or something like that. I don't know, just something kind of retro and cool that, like I say, kind of fits the vibe of the car. But we're getting pretty long here. I'm going to wrap it up. I don't like how the throttle cable set up and the TV cable for the transmission. It's all kind of wanky, in there. And I was going to run this over to this is the power steering, power brake hose. If I said steering earlier, I always meant brake. I know what it is. But this cable bracket is humongous. And I thought, I'm going to see if there's something better aftermarket that gets me some better alignment between these two. Because this looks like the factory Edelbrock accessory to hook up a TV cable for the 700 R4 transmission that's in this. I'm like, well, surely they offer a bracket that looks better like that. Well, this is it. I can't believe it. I mean, it is the biggest, bulkiest, weird thing. So I don't know what I'm going to do either. We're going to modify that because I don't like it going at a funny angle. I want them, run as straight as I can. Not sure about throttle cable here. I got one. I've seen people say, yeah, their car has a loop in it too. It just seems really long. Of course, I can't find one from the factory, so maybe that's how it looks. I don't know. It works. We'll make it work. But I'm going to do something with the cable here, whether that's modify this, or I'm going to use a factory type bracket that mounts to the back two studs, which just has bolts in it for some crazy reason. Mounts to the back two studs of that, and just kind of hangs off the back, and then it's wide open here where I can run that line through there. So, a few more things to do, but like I said, I want to get this as reliable as I can before I pull down on the road. Other stuff we didn't talk about, but I don't know. This thing's getting pretty long, so I think we'll wrap it up here, and we'll keep you posted with what else we do in the future. Well, all right. I've been busy, as you can see. What you think about that one? Let me know in the comments, and always do that homework, like, subscribe, share. Appreciate you watching. Definitely like the feedback. And as always, dare to be different, and keep the info and the comments coming to me. I love that stuff. I always try to reply. And we'll see you next time on Smith Motorworks. Later.